So my name is Marni Wandner. I run a digital marketing company, and it's digital marketing and PR. We're out of New York. I just flew in this morning, so bear with me if I don't make any sense. We work with a really wide array of different types of artists. Our roster is really everything from bigger household names to tiny up-and-coming bands. We work a lot of international artists that are making their way into the States, whether they're new internationally or whether they are, have an established career overseas and are trying to break into the US. And we work with labels, both major and indie. We work with label services companies, distribution companies, management companies, and very, very often these days, the artists themselves. Can I just get like a quick show of hands of who we have in the room? Do we have anyone from management companies? Okay, labels, publicists, marketing? Any artists? Wow, okay, cool. All right, so now I know what to talk about. So Sneak Attack is maybe not the best barometer for like your typical US publicity company. What we do is a little bit different, which we really love. And it's been really handy because we've always been a little different. We've always focused on digital. And as the PR landscape has changed over the past few years, it's been really great that we've already been doing things a little bit differently, and we've just sort of been amplifying our services, which has been really fun. So today I'm going to go over just some basic broad strokes of what's going on with PR in the US, and then I'm going to take you through a little bit of how we work with our artists to enhance that basic PR strategy and what we do to employ, the initiatives that we do for our artists. A lot of them are examples that we've done for bigger artists, and then we also have some overseas artists so that I can show you what we've done there as well. It's working, yay. So as I mentioned, we're mainly digital and online, and most of our campaigns integrate elements of online PR, digital platform promotions, social media, creative marketing, brand integration, influencer partnerships, all kinds of different stuff. And we combine all of these promotional elements to create a comprehensive campaign for each one of our clients. They're always completely different, each one. There's elements that are the same, but each client is just completely different, as you know. My personal background, before Sneak Attack, I was in artist management for a while, and then I was in marketing and publicity. So I began to see all of these shifts towards digital in everything that I did, and so I decided that I would build something that focused solely on digital and did a wide array of things in the digital space for artists. So here we are. I started Sneak Attack in 2006, which is crazily almost 10 years ago. I was 11 when I started the company. When I started it, it's crazy to think about the change in the digital space from 2006 to now, everywhere, in the US for sure, but everywhere. I mean, like we were talking about MySpace, and that was basically it when I started, and we'd reskin your MySpace page. That was like a big deal. And there were a couple of other social media platforms that we worked with that were just not MySpace, basically. They weren't even, we had to kind of convince our artists that they should try them out. But it's been an incredible shift since then to what we're doing now. I don't think I could have predicted that we would be doing as a company what we're doing now compared to where we started. The PR landscape itself has also transformed drastically in the US and everywhere, really, but I can just obviously speak from my point of view in the US, but it's been actually an amazing opportunity for companies like ours to create these new interesting initiatives that as the PR landscape gets a little more crowded and more people are making content, and there's more and more outlets, but everybody's sort of got their own angle, which I'll go into in a little bit. It's been a really interesting kind of Wild West way of, oh, let's try this. Oh, that worked. Let's do that again. So it's been really fun, and we kind of sit in the middle of PR and marketing in the digital space, so it's really cool to kind of just come up with different ways of doing stuff that might not be traditional. And there's actually a lot of artists and labels and management companies that are just doing really interesting things all the time, so it's really inspiring. I like seeing what everyone's doing and then having conversations about it. Like I said before, it's easier than ever to make music now, which is a great thing, obviously, and it's also a challenging thing because the more music we have, the more crowded the space gets, and obviously that means that there's a lot of outlets, being created and places to put the music. The US is gigantic. I don't think that I realized how gigantic a country it was until I started doing things like this, or working with international clients, or spending a lot of time doing conferences and in festivals and panels and stuff overseas, and people would be like, "You do digital marketing for the whole US?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my job." And I realized, oh my God, that's huge. Like, it's huge. I don't have a map, but Matthew had a map, and you can, obviously, how big the country is, but living in it, you forget just how vast it is, and then compared to other countries where it's easy to kind of see in one fell swoop where you would go with a PR campaign, and with the US, it never ends. You're just never done, ever. Even just online, because you just have blog after blog popping up and everything, constant. But even with that constant popping up of this blog and that website and this tastemaker and that influencer, it's still a very saturated market because of all the music that's being created. Because most clients that come to us, or any other PR or marketing firm, they're hiring us to get them on the top tier blogs and websites that they know about. They're hiring us to get them on Pitchfork or Stereogum or The Guardian or New York Times. They're not hiring us to get them on a tiny blog that no one's heard of. And there's a lot of those, and they can be very helpful in building the story, but everybody's kind of clamoring for that space, which is, I think, one of the main challenges in the PR landscape right now, at least in the US. And probably, I would imagine that's most similar to a country like here, or really any smaller country, because you're going to have a fewer number of bigger outlets that people want to be on. So I think that's just a constant struggle with PR, where everybody's sort of clamoring to be in the same space, and we just have to be really clever about how we do it and how to build the story. You may hear people talking about, and again, I don't know if this is a US-centric thing, but there's a term going around called premiere culture. Have you guys heard anyone talking about that? So, seeing some nods. So it's basically, in the last few years or so, I would say, that a lot of the outlets that we work with, the top tier outlets, but even some of the smaller ones, are kind of refusing coverage of something unless it's an exclusive premiere, which you can imagine is challenging when you're trying to work an album that's out, first of all, because what do you have? Maybe a video, but how many videos are you going to have? And so we're constantly encouraging our artists to make more content, quality content, obviously, and authentic content. But it's a challenging thing when everybody wants the exclusive premiere of something, and there's only so many things that you have. So like I said, even some of the smaller blogs are doing that now too, and the smaller websites. Sneak Attack, we've been around for 10 years. We have established really strong relationships with some of the, most of the top tier outlets in music and entertainment. But it still happens where we'll pitch a really well-known artist with a new video that may be premiered somewhere else, and they'll, have to hold out for the exclusive premiere or something. So I think a lot of this too, and this, again, can't say if this is exclusive to the US now, but a lot of the smaller, more successful blogs have been purchased by some larger entities, and now they're having to report numbers like they really hadn't had to before. So there's a lot of concern about page views and eyeballs, people like to call it. We need to get eyeballs on our site because we need to report back to the advertisers that these are the page views, these are the unique viewers that are coming to the site. And this puts the editors of these sites into a position where even if they wanted to premiere, or even if they wanted to post the new up-and-coming band that we're working that they really like, they might not be in a position where they can do it because that might not drive the readership that they need for their advertisers. So it's a strange position because we all want to be in these bigger spaces, but it might be the smaller guys that are willing to take the risk on somebody. And I can't tell you how many times I've brought something to one of these places knowing how great it is, and then they have to turn it down, and then we build it up, and then a few months later they're like, can we have the premiere of that? And we're like, we already offered you that. That's always a nice position to be in, though. And of course, this is not always the case. If something catches fire, everybody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants it on their blog. It's going to be, or even their website. I'm saying blog, but I mean any sort of digital outlet, really. And the reason for that is because there's a story there. Like Adele is not having a problem getting the same story on every website on the internet because there's a story and everybody wants to talk about it. And they know that if they talk about Adele, people are going to click and they're going to be able to say X many page views and blah, blah, blah. So the biggest challenge I think that we have on the PR side is when we have a new artist or an artist from overseas that we're trying to break in the US, we usually don't have the time to build that story and make people see why they should care. So time is one of our biggest challenges. We have to be really clever about how to get people to care very quickly. Another challenge that we are faced with these days is the sort of list article type thing that's been very popular. I mean, sort of BuzzFeed-esque. There's the top 10 reasons why you won't believe this is going to happen. Oh my God, it's going to change your life, and then you have to click on it. And when we're trying to break a new artist, especially when it's somebody from overseas into the US, and we're trying to tell them about the story that's happening over there, and it's so exciting, and now it's coming here. It's the coverage, some of the coverage can be quite listy. So it's maybe not what people are expecting when they go for a PR campaign, and then you have like a line in a list of like hot new bands from here, and this is happening. And maybe it's a few lines of text and hopefully the actual content, which is usually what we're trying to place. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a bit. But I think online we're at an advantage where the main goal is to get the content placed, because that's where you're going to capture fans. That's where you're going to say, hey, this is what I sound like, instead of somebody trying to describe you their latest song, which obviously is really challenging. Because, somebody else trying to describe someone else's music without you hearing the music is always like, can I just hear it? Where do I press play? So when we're working with a new band, or even an established artist, we tend to when we start structuring the campaign, we tend to start with establishing the goals and the expectations of the campaign. What is their evaluation of a successful campaign? Is it like a million quick hits on cool blogs, but it's like tiny, like list type things where the track is there, or they've put the new video and then they said a few lines about it? Or is it like in-depth, album reviews and things like that? And that's declining a lot. There's not a lot of space for that because of attention spans and blah blah. So a number of years ago, we had a client who was still very small. They were releasing their second album, and we delivered them a report at the end of the campaign, just packed with all these great top-tier placements, Spin and Relics and Paste, and all these places where most of our bands are like, yay, that's great. And they were most excited about these few little tiny blogs that posted these like really long, in-depth album reviews. And I wasn't even that excited about these blogs because they're so tiny, but they were so psyched because they had pull quotes to work with. They had somebody that really got the album, the concept as a whole. And that was their expectation. They were so happy with that, and I couldn't have predicted that. If I would have gotten those 2 hits, they probably would have been thrilled. So it's always really nice when especially when we're working with a new band or a band that we're bringing from somewhere else that maybe already has a pretty successful career, and then they're trying to break into the US, it's really helpful for us to get a sense of the expectations that artist has so that we can see like what we should focus on and where we should spend our energy. And this kind of shorter form list way of cramming a lot of information and content into a little bit is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it needs to happen because there's just so much content out there that it's kind of a good thing that there's a little bit more space for it, even if it's smaller little nuggets of content instead of really long stuff. Let me actually get a show of hands. How many of you guys would prefer to read like a longer form piece on a band that you're not really familiar with, or just a quick hit of what they sound like? So long form thingy, or a quick hit of what they sound like? Okay, totally, so I'm not crazy. But it's challenging because a lot of bands are like, where's my album review? I want my like 4-page, thing, and it's really difficult to do that, especially for a band that no one's heard of. Because no one's gonna be like, great, I've never heard of you, and now let me read this huge thing. So this is another reason why we really like focusing on digital. So I tend to think about it like, those old school, like the perfume ads in magazines? I don't know if this was actually one of the things where you take the flap and you open it, but the whole idea is genius, right? You get to sample the product. You buy the magazine, you open it up, there's a description, there's the lady, there's a gorgeous woman, there's the old books and the roses and the life that you've always wanted, and you get to open the thing and you smell it and you're like, oh my God, this is what my life would smell like if I lived in this ad. And that's like amazing. I love that. So that's kind of how I look at digital marketing or digital PR. This shift in how people are consuming media is really exciting because you get to sample it right there. You get to know if you like it or not. It's great. And then even better than this perfume ad, you get to share it right away. You get to keep it for yourself if you want, or you get to share it with your friends, or you get to post it on your Facebook page or tweet it or whatever you want to do, and like you get to be a tastemaker right there because you're putting it out there. So one of the things that we think about when we are kind of shopping around for places to place media or people to pitch content to and what we're going to ask them for, which is part of our overall strategy. It's not, let's just send it out and see what happens. It's like, what are we going to ask people for? What do we want from them? This is where we sort of start incorporating social media into what we do. We start thinking, well, how would someone find out that this song is on this blog right now? Do they wake up, make their coffee, sit down at their computer, like go to the blog, check out what's going on there that day? Maybe not, probably not. Maybe they used to do that. But maybe now what they're doing is wake up, make their coffee, grab their phone, go through Twitter. They're following that blog on Twitter. They see that blog posted about that band on Twitter, click the link, they have their perfume ad. There's their perfume ad. Now they're listening to the track. And this is just an example of one of our artists, Alice on the Roof. She's from Belgium, and we're working on bringing her over to the US. Even with her shiny Mystery Light's the name of the song. Alice on the Roof keeps a realness that's unparalleled in the pop realm. So to me, that's my lady on the settee with roses and books. It's like realness that's unparalleled in the pop. I want to listen to that right now. Okay, click, bam, totally clicking on that. And then I get the article and I get the SoundCloud thing right there. And this is all very obvious. Obviously, you guys know how this works, but this is my thought process into kind of, I need you to be tweeting about this if you're going to post it on your blog. I need you to make sure to tag the artist correctly. I need you to say something that's kind of, snazzy so people check it out, because I know that that's where people are going to find it. They're not going to find it by randomly perusing a blog. It's now we're a sharing culture where we're constantly, it's so easy for us to share music with people. So our job as promoters or as publicists or as marketers is to make it as easy as possible for people to want to share this. Because when we when we pitch something to a blog or a website and they post it on their blog or website, it shouldn't end there. That's not our end goal. We're not like, okay, our job's done, somebody posted it, great. We need to know, well, what's next? What's next? How do we get them to share that? And we're constantly looking at, well, how is this song performing on Kick Snare, on this blog, or Indie Shuffle, or a bunch of other sites that we work with. Because if it's not performing well, and we do that one hit and it kind of like stops dead in the water there and nobody sort of picks it up and it's not being shared and people aren't really listening to it there, it's not really, it doesn't really behoove us to do another placement there, especially an exclusive one. So we really need to see what we're getting in return for giving these exclusive premieres away. And then back to the social media, I mean, that's a big part of what we do when we're securing coverage, is also following up with those sites and making sure, especially with an international artist, because we want them to get the most out of this. Like I said, we usually only have a few months to do this within, so we want to make sure that our clients are getting the most out of each thing that we secure for them. And then what we do from there, we have a whole social media portion of what we do, but we advise the client on how to best engage with these posts, and then what to post after that, and then what to not post, which is also really, really important. And this is kind of why most of our campaigns involve the online PR and then the social media and the digital marketing. It's like a little ecosystem, and it's all connected, and it's really, I think a lot of times there's like a team that's doing that, and then a team that's doing that, and a team that's doing that, and we're sort of trying to do all of it under one roof so that we make sure that all the dots are connected, because I think that's just, it's a little bit more of a holistic way of looking at things. Did you have a question, or, yeah? How many are you in the company? Oh, that's a good question. I didn't really tell you anything about us. We are 8 people, and we're a collection of social media specialists and project managers who are responsible for the third-party reach-outs, the marketing and the PR. So it's a lot of work for 8 people, but we do it. So I want to take you through like what maybe a typical campaign for us might look like. Obviously, like I said, they're all different. They're so different. And by the way, if anyone has any questions while I'm talking, feel free to flag me down. So we're probably going to start with an assessment of the artist's social media presence, which a lot of people might ask, well, what does that have to do with PR? And it's honestly everything, because even if we're not on board for that client's social media, maybe we're just focusing on the online PR for them, we're still going to look, because we know that once we start pitching writers and editors on this music and the story of the band, what's the first thing they're going to do? Anyone? Yeah, exactly. And they're going to land on one of their pages, which is probably Facebook, if not their website. But I feel like, where do you guys go first when you're looking up an artist? If you're not like, what's your first click? Twitter? Okay. What was it? Spotify, okay. And are you looking at like the number of plays they have at all, or are you just, yeah, okay. So there's all these things that come into play now where we're sort of looking for, what does everyone else think of this? I always look at Facebook, because I really like when I can see, so-and-so also likes this. And I'm like, I do like their music taste. I should probably listen to this. I'll like it. So that's kind of part of what we're doing, is we're going to do a social media assessment and look at, when we Google the band, what do we find? Is it representative of the band? Is it super old information and artwork that has nothing to do with what they're doing now? Or is everything up to date and consistent and authentic and engaging? That's the other thing, is, not just how it looks, but how often are they updating their profiles? What are they saying? How are they using best practices when they're posting on Facebook and Twitter, or are they using like hashtags on Facebook and not tagging things on Twitter, or not staying within the 140 characters? Or you'd be surprised. Like, we'll sometimes look at the profiles of some of our new clients, and we're like, can we help you? I know we're not hired to do this, but can we help you with this? So after the assessment, we usually begin the optimization phase. again, equally as important for the PR campaign, because once sites start posting about the band, now the fans or potential fans are going to go check them out. So they're going to click those social links that we're asking them to post so that we can help build the numbers, especially in the US. If we have a band from overseas, we want to help build those numbers on social media with the US market. We want to see that by the end of our campaign that the US portion of their fans went up, because that's like our way of kind of seeing our results of saying, great, you already had fans in France or Belgium, that's wonderful. What about in the US? So that's one of our goals. So we want to make certain that there's a reason for that new fan that's going to click the link on Kick Snare and check out Alice on the Roof on her Facebook page. We want to make sure that there's a reason for them to like the page or stay there or share something or comment or whatever it is. We want to make sure that there's a call to action. We want to make sure that they subscribe on YouTube. We want to make sure that maybe they follow the artist on Spotify, or, you know, Holy Grail, sign up for the band's email list, which I want to talk about email for like 2 seconds. It's totally off topic, but I cannot stress enough how important it is to build an email list, especially when you're a band coming from another country into the US. Building up your US email subscribers is just insanely important. And it's one of the first things that we do when we start working with an artist is say, do you have a mailing list? How many people are on it? How many, if it's an international artist, how many of your subscribers are based in the US? Because once you book that tour in the US, or you're playing South by Southwest, or you're releasing the album that's already out in Sweden, but now it's going to be out in the US, you need to let people know. And it's email, you guys probably know this, so I'm probably saying this to people who are like-minded, but email newsletter open rates, generally speaking, are way higher than an announcement on Facebook or, you know, something on Twitter, because it's coming directly to that person. We all probably get a lot of emails, but I think some people don't get as many emails as a lot of us do. And I don't know why music, and I just feel like we get a ton of emails. Does anyone else feel like we get more emails than anyone else in the world? Okay. So that's why I think it's important. And a lot of people will sign up for those email addresses, for those email lists with like their email list email. And that might seem like a bad thing, but I think it's a really good thing, because they know, okay, I'm going to check my email list newsletter sign up thing for all of the things that I need to keep up with, and now I know what's going on. So when we discuss fan acquisition, which again is part of our like master plan of, you know, getting people on board, we tend to look at it, this is pretty common, but we look at it in terms of a funnel. So you've got kind of the PR promotional tentacles up at the top. They're sort of reaching out and seeding out content and info, and maybe there's a contest, and what are we doing that's kind of sending out the tentacles out. I don't know why I use that word, but I can't think of a different one. So just, you know, out into the world, roots, seeding things, I don't know. And then you're kind of bringing them back to your nest. You're bringing them back to your website, to your social media profiles, which is step one. And from there, you're giving them a reason to stay, which we talked about. You're giving them that call to action. What is going to keep them there? Are you asking them for information? Are they getting something for that information? Are you going to like give them a free download if they sign up for your email list? Are you going to do something cool for them if they follow you on Twitter? So it's really important to have that kind of fan acquisition strategy, so that you can gather something, you get something from that interaction. So maybe they end up following the artist on Spotify, and then they get notified when that artist adds new music to their profile, when they release a new song. And that's another email that they get saying, Alice on the Roof just uploaded or just added a new song. Maybe they follow the artist on Facebook and they get a geo-targeted notification of when they're coming to that person's town to play. Maybe they see on Twitter that the artist has partnered with a brand that they already like, and that's like another endorsement of why they should like this artist and that they need to pay attention. Or again, maybe they submit their email address to enter a contest to receive direct updates from that artist so that they stay in the loop. So we're trying to seal the deal kind of with our approach. So back to the campaign. We've assessed and optimized social media. We've mapped out our strategy for fan acquisition. We've likely planned our social media content strategy and social listening strategy, which is literally like a whole other presentation. And then we're going to start our PR push. We have an idea of who we're approaching and who's likely going to post where. This is like a tiny random sampling of places that we work with. Now we're ready to look at the digital platforms that we work with. This is a whole other side of what we do. So, this is another little random sampling of digital platforms that we work with quite regularly. And of course, there's 20 new digital apps and platforms that pop up a second. So there's a new app for, now you can stream this, or this app tells you what bands are coming to town, or this app makes you breakfast and plays you your favorite music. I don't know. But somebody should make that, actually. I would totally download an app that made me breakfast and with a playlist. So here are some basic ones. We have this huge running list of apps and platforms that we like to work with. And, even some of them do very similar things, but maybe one of them is a little bit, it has some kind of cool thing that they do, or maybe we work directly with these guys, so they feature our artists. So we're looking at this at the beginning of the campaign, and we're seeing who should we talk to about partnering with, at what point in the campaign should we do it, what kind of feature opportunities are there for this artist, what makes sense, and what's our best approach for talking to Pandora? Why would Pandora care about this artist? What are we going to offer them? What are we going to do with them? And just as important, for a lot of our newer artists, and even some of our more established ones, and especially artists that are breaking into the US, we're likely going to walk those clients through some of the ways that they can use some of these platforms themselves, to make sure that they're taking full advantage of this stuff, which is another really, after we're finished with the campaign, we want to make sure that they still keep doing this. So we want to kind of teach a man to fish, so to speak. So yeah, it's a really cool balance between us getting them features with these apps and doing promotions with these apps and kind of getting information directly to the users of these applications and platforms, and then also teaching our artists how to use some of the ones that they can be taking advantage of themselves. So this is just an example of a TuneSpeak campaign. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that platform at all. It's like a fan engagement platform. This is a band called City and Color. And we had some really, really fantastic engagement in a very short amount of time. This is for a tour that they have coming up in January in the US. So using the app, we were able to mobilize the band's existing fan base and sort of make them act a little bit like a street team, kind of spreading the word about the tour. And we were also able to acquire new fans, which was really exciting. Here is an interesting promotion that we did with The Cult. That's sort of a digital, physical hybrid. We teamed up with a jukebox company and had these screens on about 30,000 jukeboxes around the US and Canada promoting a tour that they were doing with Primal Scream. We saw about 4.7 million impressions on this program within a week, which is great because the band has a new album coming out in February, so we want to start cooking up awareness for that now. We did something with the English Beat. Sometimes we do fan engagement platform. We either use an existing platform and build something on that, like we did here with an app called ThingLink. And so we did this little history of ska, walking the user through how ska started and where the English Beat got involved and where ska is today-ish. And it's interactive, so you can kind of play around with it. And then, of course, this is one of those times where we built it using a platform that already exists, and then we have a relationship with the platform, and they promote it for us to their users so that you can reach an entirely new set of fans, which is really exciting. And then the band's fans itself, they loved this because they're going through and going, oh my gosh, I remember I got this album before I got this album, and it's really exciting. This is one that we built ourselves. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Nathaniel Rateliff. He's super US-based, but doing really, really well. He was on The Tonight Show, and Jimmy Fallon, the album cover of his record, right? It's basically, I don't know if you can see it. I mean, that's the album right there, above the dog. It's his beard and like his chest and the shirt. And so Jimmy Fallon, if you can see, he held it up and did this funny thing with it. And the term rate-lifting was born, Nathaniel Rateliff. So we kind of took that and ran with it and built an app. We have some proprietary, really, simple software that we built where we built a Facebook app using Instagram's API to draw in photos of people that were using the hashtag ratelifting and holding the album cover up to them, like the beard. A lot of dogs. This was my favorite dog, rateliffer. It's pretty cool. And once we're at that point in the campaign, then we're going to look at what we can do with brand partners. These are just a few of the brand partners that we work with. We want to see who does it make sense to work with? Like, why would we want to work with a brand? What do we want to get out of it? What's their audience? Is that the audience that we want to reach? Do we have the audience that they would want to reach? Do they have like 4 million fans on Facebook and our band has 100? Because that's not going to work. So we have to kind of figure out what's the best way to make that work. This is an example of a partnership that we did with the analog camera company Lomography. Are you guys familiar with that? They have really great old school analog cameras. So we do a lot of partnerships with them when we have vinyl or we have a band that has an older fan base. And this was one that we did with them where you could take a sort of 80s R.E.M. inspired photo and enter to win the R.E.M. by MTV documentary along with some vinyl and a Lomography camera. And then we also did a screening with them in the New York store of the documentary, which is cool. Crosley Radio we work with a lot. They are the turntable company that comes in like the little suitcases. They sell them at Urban Outfitters. So we did a promotion. This is one where we did with David Gray, but we also teamed up with an editorial outlet. So we had Relics that was also promoting the contest because they had the contest featured on their site, and they also promoted it on their socials. Crosley Radio promoted it on their socials, and David Gray promoted it on his socials. So everybody won. Well, one person won, but like everybody won. And this isn't so I feel like I've been talking about a lot of big name artists, at least in the US. This is an artist that we're currently working with. She's young and up and coming. She's a young pop artist in Brooklyn. And she has a song called Made in Brooklyn. It's hashtag Made in Brooklyn. And so we helped her put on this event, and we basically secured partnerships with all of these local Brooklyn-based brands and companies to be a part of this event in various ways. And then we obviously had them cross-promote so that we could get the word about not only the event, which was a little bit kind of close to her, but also like just her music. So we have Ample Hills Creamery, which is a local, well-known Brooklyn ice cream store. They have a few locations in Brooklyn. And then also Records by Monkey, which is a local, they make jewelry and home goods out of vinyl, which is another one of her loves. She loves vinyl. So, and they both promoted, actually, Records by Monkey, we also had them make Made in Brooklyn bracelets out of vinyl, which was really fun. And sometimes the brand that we're working with or the fans of that brand that we're trying to hit isn't really a brand at all, as you would think. It's not a store, it's not a company really. Our client, Third Eye Blind, is from San Francisco, California, and Steven, but the band, they love the baseball team, the San Francisco Giants. So they were having a homecoming game in San Francisco after the bulk of their tour, and we partnered with the Giants. We reached out to them and said, hey, let's promote stuff together, and that's exactly what I said. And they cross-promoted the band's show. They had a show that night. They had a game during the day and a show that night, and we had a couple of winners that won tickets to both of them, like a doubleheader. I don't know if you guys know baseball. I don't know anything about baseball. I barely know what a doubleheader is, but it was cool because Third Eye Blind is kind of a big name in the US at least, but there's way more people talking about baseball and the Giants on Twitter than are talking about Third Eye Blind. So it ended up being a really good campaign for Third Eye Blind, because all these people were like, oh, I didn't even know they had a new album out or that they were on tour. And we were like, yay, that's exactly the point. So, and then here's another bigger partnership that we did with another non-traditional brand, sort of a hybrid, sort of somewhere between like a brand and a digital partner. We did with WeTransfer, who are a file sharing company. They're a Dutch company, but they've been doing a lot of work with the US. They're actually starting kind of a streaming thing. I don't know if you saw that in the news maybe 2 days ago. But for Motörhead, we teamed up with them to do a contest where fans could enter a video. They could submit a video of them playing along with the song and enter to win something. And they submitted the video through WeTransfer. I know I have to wrap it up, so I just want to kind of scroll through one more thing. I really don't have to go through this because I'm sort of preaching to the choir with Spotify, but we had a lot of success with French artist Jane on doing Spotify playlists with her. We had a really great campaign doing a mixture of Spotify playlists with like official Spotify playlists and also tastemaker playlists, and then also using the SoundCloud embed that we had for her with blog placements. So those things combined ended up being really, really successful. And it was really nice to see like concrete results and see like that most of the plays from the song that we were promoting were from the US, where it had only previously been released in France. One of the things that we also think about when we work with a new artist is what else are they interested in besides music? Yes, they made a record. Yes, it's amazing, or else we probably wouldn't be working with them. But what is it about them that's their thing? What's unique about them? Are they a vegan? Are they a runner? Do they love yoga? Do they love animals? Do they love the earth? Like what's their thing? And then we kind of talk about that a little bit, not only for social media, but also for PR. So what places can we go with them that are maybe not traditional music blogs or websites, where people will be like, I love that this artist loves yoga and they also have this song, and I want, So we've done a lot of partnerships like that with influencers and tastemakers that just kind of have like a little something in common. And it's kind of like introducing two friends and they meet and they really like each other, or two kittens, because I like putting kittens into presentations. So hopefully I kind of outlined a little bit about how we work with artists, bringing them into the US, the challenges that we face, and how we kind of try to cleverly get around them. And I look forward to talking to you guys afterward. Thank you so much.